Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to some of you. It is straight up 12 o'clock on the East Coast, and we are going to give everybody just 1 minute to log on. We get a lot of people that log on right for you to view and interact with. There is, of course, you should see the slides. You should see the presenters. Well, we've got one, Eddie's coming on. He's just audio right now, but he'll be video here in a bit, hopefully. And we are, and you should be able to, if you have any, there should be a Q&A. So this is important because if you have any technical issues during the webinar, if you have any questions, go ahead and answer those in the Q&A. We have a team that is working in the background to answer all your technical questions. And then, of course, as we go through the presentation, if there are any questions, go ahead and just put those in the Q&A also, and we will get to those. We have a fully packed webinar today. We want to take full advantage of your time and not waste any of it. And hopefully you are going to walk away from here with some great new knowledge and information about HSAs. So it is 12:01 over here in, I'm actually in Orlando today, and I think we're ready to get started. This is welcome to the Clarity Benefit Solutions webinar, the HSA Today, how people are actually using HSAs and how they should be. My name is Becky Crutchfield, and I am a Director of Partner Growth and Business Development for Clarity Benefit Solutions, and I am here with my colleague Eddie Larned, and I will let him introduce himself as well.
Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. My name is Eddie Larned. I am Vice President of Broker Sales with Clarity Benefit Solutions, and I will be helping Becky out with the content on today's CE webinar and also handling a couple of the poll questions for you as we talk about some of the results and what we're seeing with HSAs in the market. Really looking forward to speaking with all of you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Eddie. Okay, so let's dive right in. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the importance of HSAs, what people know about HSAs, how people are using HSAs, why it matters, and then we'll have a couple of minutes for conclusion and Q&A. So, and then a couple of housekeeping items. Like I said, you can use the Q&A for any kind of questions that you have that have to do with technical issues like I can't see the presenters, or I can't see the slides, or I can see the presenters and I don't want to see the presenters. There's all kinds of questions like that. We understand. Just remember that you are on mute, so you don't have to worry about that. And this is for CE credit. So the platform actually calculates how long you're on here. So we need to make sure that everybody's on the full time so that you can get the credit. If you're sharing screens with someone, I recommend going to your own computer and logging in through the link that you had. Also, we will be sending out a copy of the slides as well as the white paper that we used to create this presentation. And then we'll talk at the end. You should get your CE credits just a few days after we finish. And finally, there will be poll questions throughout the session. These questions you do not want to answer on the Q&A. You actually want to answer these directly on the slides. You'll see where you can answer them. So if you have any trouble with that, just let us know in the Q&A and we will get you started. So, oh, and Virginia. If there's anybody from Virginia, make sure that you download the disclosure because they do require that you take a look at that. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in. So first, we're going to look at how people are actually using HSAs today in the key areas of spending, saving, and investing. And we're going to suggest how they could and should be using them effectively going forward. Plus, we are going to touch on why more effective HSA usage is good for everyone involved, including employees, employers, and brokers. So as these statistics show, HSAs are becoming more and more popular. More than half of employers now offer a high deductible health plan. This is the type of plan that's required to also offer an HSA. There are more than 32 million HSAs out there, which is an 8% year-over-year increase. And it's projected that there will be 38 million HSAs by 2024. Not only are there more HSAs now, they're also holding more money. Assets held in HSAs have reached nearly $100 billion, and the trend there is upward as well. Now, in the future, many more people may be eligible for HSAs, not just those with qualified high deductible health plans. In 2022, Congress proposed 3 pieces of legislation related to HSAs. One that would expand access for seniors, one that would expand access for children, and one that would expand access for everyone with any type of health insurance, not just qualified high deductible health plans. Now, none of these bills became law in the 2022 Congress, and we don't really know yet if they're going to be taken up by the 2023 Congress, but it does show that there are government advocates for making HSAs even more accessible to more people in the future. And that gives us our first poll question. Eddie, will you take the poll questions for us?
Absolutely, Becky. So our first poll question here is, what percentage of your clients currently offer a high deductible health plan with an HSA? And as you can see here on the screen, you can answer that as A, 76 to 100%, B, 51 to 75%, C, 26 to 50%, or D, 0 to 25%. So I know this is kind of a guess or an estimate as far as your client base, but always curious to hear, where that trend falls as far as what we're seeing out there in the market. So we'll give everyone a few seconds to go ahead and respond, and then we can take a look at the results. Looks like already over 50% of you have responded, and again, you should be able to respond to this here in the widget within this website. So let's go ahead and look at some of the results. And kind of as the statistics that Becky had just reviewed, it's mostly clustered around the middle, around that 50% number. So it looks like we have just about 40% in the 51 to 75% area, and almost a third of you responded in the 26 to 50%. So clearly, quite a few employer groups out there are offering these high deductible health plans, tying it with an HSA.
Thanks, Eddie. So employers are going to be dealing with the repercussions of what's been termed the Great Resignation. Now, the Great Resignation describes the elevated rate at which U.S. workers resigned from their jobs starting in the spring of 2021 amid strong labor demand and low unemployment, even as vaccinations eased the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, nearly 4 million Americans quit their jobs every month, which is the highest average on record, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. These statistics show that employee turnover is a serious ongoing challenge, and for employers, attracting and retaining talent is more vital and challenging than ever. Eddie, talk to us a little bit about the Great Resignation and what it looks like now, what things look like.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a significant mindset change in the working population compared to 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. A lot nowadays, younger generations are changing jobs every 2, 3, 4, 5 years, as opposed to, when people stayed at their same job for 10 or 20 or 30 years. So we all know how costly turnover is for an organization. So I think these are the type of statistics that do cause stress and anxiety for CEOs, for HR departments, for managers and leadership. It's tough to attract and retain, good talent right now. And in 2023, the unemployment rate is definitely pretty low, but there are still lots of opportunities out there. And there are certainly people that are willing to hop from job to job to get a bigger salary or, a better work-life balance or whatever might be important to them.
Now, as a result of the Great Resignation, talent acquisition and retention are top priorities for employers, according to the HR Trends Report. One key strategy to attract and retain talent is to offer more attractive benefits packages, because as these numbers show, benefits are important to employees. In fact, benefits are the #2 reason that people look for new jobs, and 90% of employees would take better healthcare benefits over a pay raise. Eddie, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about HSAs and how they fit into the questions, but as someone with a lot of personal experience with HSAs, what does this mean to you?
Yeah, well, I think these are interesting statistics that really just emphasize, obviously, as the slide suggests, the importance of benefits and how it is such a priority for the employee population in the United States. These are great numbers for us and everyone on this call because we're employee benefits and insurance professionals. So clearly there's a need for our role, which is great. But it does just show you, how important and how much people value their benefits. Relating this to the last slide, we're certainly not suggesting that an HSA is going to be the deciding factor of someone picking one job over another, but it is part of the overall benefits package, or can be. And these statistics clearly show how important that is to the employees when they're evaluating their current and prospective opportunities.
So HSAs really are shaping up to be a very important benefit for employers to offer. In an article titled "Convergence Between Retirement and Benefits is Just Beginning," Benefits Pro pointed out that employers, employees, and benefits providers are all taking a more holistic approach to managing benefits. Now, this includes an enhanced attention to adding more mental health components to healthcare benefits, tying into a broader view of overall well-being that goes beyond traditional medical and surgical care. It also includes looking beyond healthcare benefits, particularly to financial planning and retirement benefits, to have a more complete, better understanding of all one's benefits, how they relate to each other, and how they can most effectively be used together. Eddie, I know you like this slide. Tell us about how these benefits link.
Yeah, I do like this slide, Becky, and I really like that quote from Benefits Pro, or the name of that article, that they wrote or posted, because I think an HSA fits perfectly into that statement. It really is a convergence between the retirement side of what we consider the benefit of employee benefits and the rest of employee benefits, which I think we usually associate with health insurance and dental and vision and things like that. So between these two numbers, I think HSA kind of bridges that gap. It touches both sides. And I think initially most folks think of an HSA as a health-related benefit. But as we're going to elaborate on a lot more during this presentation, really an HSA is an outstanding long-term wealth builder and a retirement savings account that can really complement other retirement benefits like a 401k. So I like this slide. I definitely think the HSA is the product here that Benefits Pro is kind of alluding to.
So HSAs are growing in popularity, and we expect that that trend will continue. But let's take a step back in the world of let's take a step back here. So in the world of employee benefits, HSAs are really still relatively new, and their features may be unfamiliar to many, especially those not in our field. So what exactly is an HSA? According to healthcare.gov, a health savings account is a type of savings account that lets you set aside money on a pre-tax basis to pay for qualified medical expenses. It must be used in conjunction with a high deductible health plan with HSA eligibility. And account holders can use their HSAs to pay for out-of-pocket expenses such as copays, coinsurance, deductibles, doctor visits, hospital charges, prescription drugs, dental and orthodontic services, and vision care, glasses, and contacts. Basically, it's a way employers try to help offset some of the pain of the higher deductibles that are part and parcel of high deductible health plans just by providing tax-free savings on employees' out-of-pocket spending. So that's the big picture theory of HSAs. But theory and practice, of course, two different things. And that brings us to part two. What do people actually know about their HSAs? And before we go to that, let's do a poll question.
All right, next poll question. How confident are you in your knowledge of HSAs? You can answer this in any of the following three ways. A, highly, supremely, awesomely confident. B, hopefully, somewhat, a little bit confident. And C, hardly sure about anything confident. So always curious to hear your responses. Again, thank you for your participation with these poll questions. They are required to qualify for the CE. And in a second, after we let everyone have a few minutes or a few seconds to go ahead and respond to this, we're going to go ahead and ask you the same question, but on your client's knowledge and their confidence about HSAs. So it looks like we're already about 3/4 of the responses are received. So let's go ahead and go over to the next slide and look at some of these results. And great to see. You can tell, we have a lot of good broker partners and insurance consultants here on this, CE, and the confidence level is medium to high, I would say, based off these results. So no surprise there, but always opportunity to learn more, and hopefully you walk away from today's CE with a little bit more knowledge on HSAs. And with that, let's ask you the exact same question here. But again, as you can see here in green, your client's knowledge and your client's confidence on HSAs as opposed to your own. So go ahead and answer that. How confident are you in your client's knowledge of HSAs? And that could be highly, supremely, awesomely confident, hopefully somewhat a little bit confident, or hardly sure about anything confident.
I love these categories. They're so crystal clear. Awesomely confident, supremely. I love it.
Yes. All right. Looks like the responses have come in, and let's check it out. And kind of the other side of the spectrum, we see most folks, the vast majority of your responses are somewhere in the middle. So that's a great sign. We don't always see that, but definitely a lot fewer in that bottom category of hardly sure about anything confident compared to our prior question. So thank you again for your participation, and let's keep moving along.
So when it comes to the general population of HSA users, they are not really all that confident. More than 90% want to learn more. Nearly a quarter admit that they know little or nothing. And most troubling, 1 out of 3 of them have not even opened the HSA that they are eligible for. With that in mind, let's take a pop quiz. Now, this is one that you can actually answer in the Q&A or just answer it in your head, but we're going to focus on some of the areas that cause people the most confusion about HSAs. So true or false, HSA balances roll over from year to year. True or false, HSAs are portable. True or false, HSAs have annual contribution limits. And true or false, anyone is eligible for an HSA. So I'm sure that you all have got all these right, but again, these are the primary areas that cause confusion amongst typical HSA users. So you'll want to be aware of them when talking about HSAs with your clients. Number 1, HSA balances roll over. Yep, that is true. It is a key difference between HSAs and FSAs. There is no use it or lose it penalty. Number 2, HSAs are portable. This is also true. The account is owned by the employee, not the employer, so it can be moved from job to job. Number 3, HSAs have annual contribution limits. This is also true. The IRS sets yearly contribution limits for single and family account holders. Finally, number 4, anyone is eligible. Well, this one is false. And as we've mentioned, you have to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan to qualify to contribute to an HSA. So the crux of what makes HSAs stand out from other employee benefits, whether they're focused on healthcare or finances, is the triple tax advantages. And we are going to say this over and over and over because it's the most important thing that you need to learn about HSAs. This is what makes them unique. The money you put into them can go in without any taxes being taken out. The money that builds up in the account from interest or investment gains accrues without taxes being taken out. And the money you take out to pay for qualified expenses can come out without taxes being taken out. So no other benefit has this triple tax advantage. The 3 key ways to use an HSA are paying for qualified medical expenses, tax-free, building up savings for the future medical tax benefits, future medical expenses, tax-free, and investing for future medical expenses, like in retirement, also tax-free. And as promised, we're going to take a look at how your clients' employees are utilizing each of these activities today and how they might better utilize them tomorrow. But first, question that we hear from many brokers, employers, and employees is, how do HSAs align with other employee benefits that I may be more familiar with? So with the right plan design, HSAs can work in conjunction with other benefits. And I was going to, Eddie, will you take these next few slides and just walk us through how we stack all these benefits together?
Yeah, absolutely, Becky. So let's go ahead and start with HSAs and how they interact with FSAs. So the IRS builds rules in with these different benefits, and one of the rules says you cannot actively contribute to a health savings account if you are also enrolled in an FSA, a flexible spending account. You can't have that. You can't contribute to both at the same time or during the same plan year. So what you can do, however, is take advantage of a limited purpose FSA and also maintain your eligibility to contribute to your health savings account. So what a limited purpose FSA is that it has the same tax benefit and the same maximum contribution amount and similar other rules to a regular FSA, only it can only be used for dental and vision expenses. So no medical and no prescriptions. And you can use it for just dental and just vision up until you've satisfied the HSA minimum deductible, which for 2023 is $1,500 for a single and $3,000 for a two-person or family. And at that point, if you wanted to, you could convert your limited purpose FSA to a standard FSA and start to use those funds for medical and prescription expenses in addition to the dental and the vision. So what are some scenarios where someone would want to contribute to the limited purpose FSA and the HSA? Two that jump out to me are, number one, it increases the total amount of money that you can put away pre-tax for dental and vision expenses. So if you know you have predictable expenses for dental this year, or you're getting LASIK, or your kids have braces or orthodontia expenses, that can be thousands and thousands of dollars. So what this allows you to do is take advantage of maxing out your HSA at $7,750 for family, as well as another $3,050 for the limited purpose FSA. And now you have almost $11,000 in pre-tax money that you can use for those types of expenses. But it can also be advantageous for someone who's healthy when it comes to medical and prescription standpoint, but might have those predictable dental and vision expenses, because you could fund your HSA, put the money away and invest it for the long run, and use your limited purpose FSA to cover those dental and vision expenses in the short term, or at least in your plan year. And again, the nice part of a limited purpose FSA, just like a regular FSA, is that it is pre-funded by your employer. So you have access to those funds right at the start of the year to start to pay for those dental and vision expenses. Now with HRAs, there's a similar rule in that you cannot receive what's called other coverage when you're contributing to an HSA before that HSA minimum deductible has been satisfied. And I just mentioned those numbers, and you can see them again here on your screen. It's $1,500 for single or $3,000 for two-person or family. But what you can do is have an HRA that kicks in after those amounts have been satisfied. So they could kick in right at $1,501. Or you could have the HRA cover the back end of the deductible, which really reduces the employee's overall out-of-pocket exposure. So it maintains your eligibility for contributing to an HSA. You get to take advantage of those tax savings and the investment opportunities, but you might not necessarily have to have a huge deductible of $5,000 or $6,000 as an individual if your employer has built in an HRA on the back end. So basically just a nice way of an employer creating an even richer high deductible health plan, but still maintaining that HSA eligibility. And then we have COBRA. So the nice thing about an HSA that is a little different from an FSA is you can use HSA funds to cover COBRA premiums, and we all know how expensive those premiums can be. So that just makes it another reason that it can be advantageous to save up a significant balance in your HSA, if at all possible, in case you ever have a scenario where you do have to pay for COBRA. But in addition to that, if you continue your plan on COBRA and it is a high deductible health plan with HSA eligibility, you could continue to contribute to that HSA. Now, you wouldn't be doing it through payroll where it's pre-tax as soon as payroll is deducted, but you can make an after-tax contribution, transferring funds from your own personal checking or savings account into your HSA. And then you get an above the line deduction on your tax return each year. So you still save on federal and state taxes, and you do miss out on the payroll tax, but still can be a nice benefit.
Thanks, Eddie. And that brings us to part 3. How are people actually using their HSAs? Well, there are basically 3 key activities involved with using an HSA. Like we said before, spending, saving, and investing. We're going to take a look at recent statistics to see what HSA users are doing in each of these areas in the real world. First, another poll question.
All right, next poll question. Which activity do you think is most prevalent among HSA holders? And you can answer this in any of those 3 ways that Becky just referenced. A, spending, B, saving, and C, investing. So we'll give everyone a couple of seconds here to go ahead and answer this. Again, the question is, which activity do you expect to be the most prevalent among HSA holders? And that is spending, saving, or investing. All right, looks like we already have almost half of the responses in, so let's go ahead and check the results. And most of you responded with saving, and that was wise. It is called a health savings account. Next is spending, and finally, as aligns with a lot of statistics that we're going to talk about, investing is down there near the bottom.
Great job, guys. So let's start with spending. Are people using their HSAs for eligible healthcare spending? The answer is yes, yes, yes. They definitely are. And let's look at some statistics and trends. In 2021, more than $30 billion was withdrawn from HSAs, and that's up 2% from the previous year. According to Benefits Pro, 86% of HSA funds are being used to pay medical expenses. Out of an estimated $491 billion spent on out-of-pocket healthcare expenses in 2021, $95 billion were paid for with pre-tax dollars. That's with employee benefit accounts like HSAs and FSAs. Eddie, these numbers, I mean, they look okay, but tell me what you think about them.
Yeah, I mean, at first glance, I think that's great. You know, people are spending their HSA money, which means they're paying for their, eligible medical expenses with pre-tax money. They're saving 30 or 35%. They're keeping money in their pocket. But when you look at that last statistic kind of here at the bottom middle of your screen, and you look at the overall spend on healthcare expenses in 2021, really less than 20% are being used with pre-tax money out of HSAs and FSAs. Obviously, medical is the type of thing that it's not always predictable, and not everyone can take the risk of enrolling in an HSA qualified plan to contribute to an HSA, but everyone can contribute to an FSA. And really what that statistic tells me is that there's a ton of money being left on the table, a ton of money that's going to the government instead of staying in the pocket of the consumer by saving on those taxes. So definitely think that tells me there's opportunity here. And I think if we can educate on these products and more folks can get, enrolled, and maybe some of those legislative changes take place where it opens up eligibility a little bit more, maybe we can get those numbers up a little bit and save people a little bit more money.
So what types of purchases are HSA users spending on? Doctor visits and prescription refills are the top 2. Other ways they spend on dental visits, vision expenses, hospital bills, over-the-counter medicine. And we're going to talk a little bit more about over-the-counter medicine. That's up 3% there. One relatively recent development having an impact on HSA spending is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, passed in 2020, popularly known as the CARES Act. The CARES Act expanded the advantages of HSAs and FSAs by removing the prescription requirement for several over-the-counter drugs and medicines, and by adding feminine hygiene products to the list of eligible expenses for reimbursement. HSA eligible expenses now include cold and allergy products, pain relievers, medicated acne treatments, sunscreen of SPF 15 or higher, tampons, prenatal vitamins, and more. The tax advantage savings that HSAs provide on qualified purchases is sorely needed. Here are a couple of statistics that show just how much healthcare costs are rising for Americans. In the 10 years from 2006 to 2016, out-of-pocket healthcare spending has risen by 53%. And healthcare plan premiums have gone up twice as much as workers' earnings from 2008 to 2018. Eddie, talk a little bit about these statistics. I feel sad for the future.
Yeah, these statistics are a little scary, at how significantly, the increases are happening over the last 10 or 15 or almost 20 years with these statistics. So clearly there is a very important need here. And again, it goes back to the opportunity to keep more money in our own pocket. Every dollar helps. Every dollar is important. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. So if we can do anything, even small adjustments to keep more money, in our own pockets, it's worth exploring that. And I think these statistics prove how much of a need there is there.
HSAs are designed to help offset rising medical costs. So as we've discussed, they are attached to high deductible health plans. Because consumers pay a larger deductible with them, high deductible health plans encourage consumers to explore competitively priced options for their health care. And because HSAs let consumers pay with pre-tax dollars, they are effectively saving up to 30% or more on eligible expenses based on their individual federal and state tax brackets. And when it comes to tax-advantaged employee benefits related to healthcare spending, many people are more familiar with flexible spending accounts, or FSAs, than HSAs. Now, here's a chart showing the key differences. Eddie, walk us through some of the most important differences here.
Yeah, I think to start with is eligibility here at the top of this table. And also, you mentioned, Becky, that more people are familiar with FSAs than HSAs. And I think eligibility is the reason why. Not everyone, has the risk tolerance to join a high deductible health plan. And if you're not a healthy person, it's probably not the best plan for you. So folks that are enrolled in traditional medical plans that are not high deductible are all eligible for FSAs, and therefore would be more likely, I think, to be educated on them or enroll in them. So I think eligibility is important. As we've said many times, you have to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan for an HSA. For FSA, you just have to be eligible for the benefits offered by your employer. You don't even necessarily have to be enrolled in that plan offered by your employer. You just have to be eligible for it. Ownership, I think that ties in with eligibility also here on this table. Ownership of an HSA belongs to the employee. It is a true bank account. It is portable. Whether you retire, change jobs, change plans, you keep that money. Even if you pass away, you assign it. You have a beneficiary assigned, so it stays with your family. Tax-free, yes, they both have the tax advantages. However, again, the HSA has the ability to invest and gain tax-free interest over time. Funds carrying over, yes, with the HSA. With the FSA, there is a rollover provision that the employer can allow, but it's only 20% of the IRS maximum. So it's only up to $610 of unused funds can roll over from one plan year to the next. So again, that's a little bit of a limitation. And then you have the qualified expenses, which are the same, IRS 213D, medical, dental, vision, over the counter.
Thanks, Eddie. So chances are your client's employees who have HSAs are using them on qualified medical expenses. But here are a few ways they may be able to use their HSA, make their HSA dollars go even further. When first getting started, employees may not have a lot of money in their HSAs. However, they can save receipts from qualified expenses they make out of pocket and reimburse themselves from their HSAs later when the accounts are more fully funded. Sometimes discount programs like GoodRx offer better deals on prescription drugs that are available through health insurance. And so in certain cases, it may make more sense to pay for prescriptions with HSA funds out of pocket rather than through their health insurance program. And people need to realize and remember, for many everyday purchases like aspirin, sunscreen, tampons, these are all eligible to be paid for with HSA funds. So any other things that you can think of, Eddie, that might make people spend more wisely?
Yeah, I think there are other tips and tricks that, we picked up over the years just doing open enrollment meetings with insurance brokers and hearing some of the strategies they recommend, regardless of whether or not you're enrolled in a high deductible health plan, but just being a smart consumer with your benefits in general. Things like asking if there's a generic equivalent, for a prescription, or going to the urgent care facility instead of going to the emergency room. Or if you have something that's predictable or not urgent type of care, maybe like an MRI on your shoulder, shopping around a little bit, finding the best, value or best price based on your need and based on the resources that are available to you. So I think those are all strategies that apply across all types of health insurance. But can especially be beneficial with HSAs, where you have that ability to accrue a large balance and invest your money and use it wisely.
So when you're recommending an HSA provider to your clients, make sure that they facilitate spending with features such as a smart debit card and mobile app that makes the spending, tracking claims, and reimbursement processes easy and automated. I noticed one of the questions was, can you pay for dental and vision with your HSA funds? Yes, you can. The benefits, like we were talking about, stacking some of those, just make it so that you have even more ability to do some savings, which we're going to talk about next. Many providers now offer advanced funding options as well. So it lets users pay for expenses with HSA dollars, even if they haven't fully funded their accounts yet. And Eddie, I think that's a big deal. A lot of times I run into clients, if they haven't instituted an HSA, if they haven't allowed for that, a lot of their concern is, well, my people are used to getting their money at the first of the year, and HSA funds are only available as you deposit them. So I think it's important to have some option for, maybe some advancing, and we're going to talk about that in one of the next slides, right? Or do you want to mention anything about that now?
Yeah, we can mention that briefly. That the advanced funding option being tied to an HSA is becoming more and more popular. And I think part of it is just what you mentioned, Becky, in that when someone's going from a traditional plan with co-pays and low deductibles or some sort of cost sharing with the carrier over to a high deductible health plan where all of a sudden you have a couple $1,000s worth of exposure before the carrier starts paying a portion of the claims, it can provide some anxiety, both for employee and for employer. So I think having that advanced funding option is a nice feature where even if I only have $200 because I'm only in the second month of my year and I haven't contributed that much, but I have that $700 emergency room visit, I can swipe my card and kick in that employer-sponsored advance, pay my bill, and then pay those funds back through my HSA or to my employer over the next 10 or 20 or 30 pay periods. So there are a lot of creative solutions, I think, that have come out in the last couple of years that kind of help alleviate some of that concern about moving over to a high deductible health plan for the first time.
So we like to talk a lot about spending, but now we're going to talk about savings. Are people using their HSAs for saving? Well, kind of. It's definitely improving, and there's still lots of room for growth. So we're going to look at some of the recent HSA savings statistics and trends here. About $42 billion was put into HSAs in 2021, and about $31 billion was taken out. So it seems that people are to some extent saving. The average yearly contribution to an HSA is $1,646. Eddie, what's the maximum contribution allowed this year?
Yeah, so for this year, for single participants, it's $3,850, so more than double what that average annual HSA contribution is, as shown here on the screen. And for family, it's almost $8,000. It's $7,750. And for anyone who is over age 55, they and their spouse can contribute an extra $1,000 in catch-up contributions. So, look, we understand people have other things to divert their funds to, paying rent, paying mortgage, 401k, other living expenses, but definitely a lot of opportunity here when the average annual contribution is not even 50% of that single maximum.
So why is it important for people to save more for medical expenses? Well, because a lack of such savings is negatively impacting Americans. 4 out of 10 U.S. adults have delayed or gone without medical care in the last year due to its cost. And 6 out of 10 worry about being able to afford an unexpected medical bill. The S in HSA stands for savings, not spending. You mentioned this before, Eddie. These accounts are created to encourage saving. So how do they do this? Well, they earn interest tax-free. There are no minimum distributions. They roll over. They're portable, and they're owned by the employee, not the employer. So it's their own money that they're saving. Eddie, any comments about these special features?
Yeah, I mean, saving is obviously very important, and not everyone has either the financial ability or the risk tolerance to invest their funds. So, saving is a nice option for them. But, inflation's high right now. So, if you're leaving funds in a savings account, you're not exactly making money on it. But there are companies out there that have these high yield savings accounts tied to their HSA. And I think that is an outstanding option for employees or account holders. And for employers to select an HSA partner that has a high yield savings option, because that can really give you, pretty much risk-free 8 to 12 times more interest than a traditional savings account. And that keeps more money in the employee's pocket and, helps them earn more interest over the long run.
So this chart highlights some of those key advantages that HSAs have over traditional bank savings accounts. Though, of course, remember that someone does have to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan, and they must be used for qualified medical expenses in order to avoid any kind of taxes. So, Eddie, walk us through the differences here.
Yeah, of course, there's some give and take with the IRS, right? If they're going to give you a terrific benefit that's triple tax advantage like the HSA, there's going to be some pros, there's going to be some restrictions around it compared to your regular savings account. So again, as we've talked about earlier, tax-free interest, tax-free deposits in your HSA. However, the high deductible health plan is required. Obviously, there's no requirements when it comes to a regular savings account. Withdrawal restrictions, yes, with the HSA, you are limited to the medical, dental, vision, orthodontia expenses until you turn 65. Then you can use it for whatever you want, and you just pay normal taxes on it. So you do have to pay taxes at that point, but you're no longer restricted to those other items. You avoid a penalty there. And then you have the deposit limits, of course. If there were no deposit limits, I think you'd see some high earners getting some significant tax benefits. So they have to put a cap on that, just like you would a 401k.
So because interest is earned tax-free and often at higher rates, and there are no minimum distributions, remember HSAs are very attractive vehicles to build up savings for future healthcare expenses. So it makes sense, if at all possible, to contribute the maximum amount every year to an HSA. In 2023, as Eddie mentioned before, the IRS set contribution limit is $3,850 for self-only coverage and $7,750 for family coverage. But as we noted earlier, the average yearly contribution to an HSA is just $1,646. Make sure any HSA partner that you do recommend to your clients offers HSAs with features that facilitate savings, such as a high yield interest option, perhaps backed by a group annuity from a highly rated insurance provider, as well as more traditional savings options backed by an FDIC insured institution. And make sure that they give end users access to a single portal that allows them to track savings, spending, and investing in real time. Just remember that the participant experience is how we grow utilization and participation. So just make sure that participant experience is good. And that's a snapshot of HSA savings. So now let's turn to HSA investing. Are people using their HSAs for investing? Not really, not nearly enough, actually. So let's take a look at some of the recent HSA investing statistics and trends. The statistics that really stands out, only 7% of HSAs have a portion of their dollars invested. Investing is the most underutilized activity of HSAs. Eddie, is this what you're seeing too?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is what we're seeing out there in the market. And, I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity here. The investing component is my favorite part of an HSA. I see real potential to build long-term wealth and financial stability for account holders. I've spoken with clients of ours who, she's been enrolled in an HSA for 7 or 8 years, maxes it out every year, invests as much as she possibly can. She has a balance of like $70,000 in her account. So not everyone can afford to do that type of thing, but I think for those individuals who can and understand the benefits here, there's terrific potential for long-term financial stability and wealth building.
However, those that are investing, just like you say, Eddie, have the most robust HSA accounts. The average total balance for HSA investment accounts is over $19,000. That's more than 7 times more than accounts without investments. At the end of 2021, there were $34.4 billion in HSA investment. This represents a 45% increase. So, though investments are underutilized, they do represent the fastest growing activity of HSA accounts. Do these balances surprise you?
I think these balances are definitely interesting. You know, it kind of goes back to what I mentioned on the prior slide, in that the folks who can afford to invest and understand the opportunity there, they will, and they are taking advantage of it. And you can see that by that number of over $19,000 on the left side of your screen. And I do think this is where there is a ton of opportunity with HSAs, and you see that 45% increase. I think over time, as more and more companies are offering high deductible health plans and more folks are seeing the benefits and enrolling in them, especially for someone who's young and healthy and doesn't anticipate having a lot of medical claims, you know, the ability to put away this money, save on the taxes, invest it, it can just be a terrific benefit. So I think over time, we're going to continue to see this go up significantly.
There is a pressing need for people to invest today with an eye to build funds for retirement. According to the Employee Benefits Research Institute, a couple retiring, both of them 65, will need to have $350,000 set aside just for healthcare costs. And as we've noted, HSAs are unique in offering numerous tax advantages, including no taxes on investment earnings and no taxes on withdrawals for eligible medical expenses. In fact, after age 65, HSA holders can withdraw funds for any purpose without the penalty. And here's an overview of how HSAs compare to 401ks. We haven't really talked a lot about 401ks yet, but because HSA contributions offer greater tax savings than 401ks, they give account holders the potential to build up savings faster. Eddie, talk a little bit about HSAs and 401ks, how they compare.
Yeah, I think, you know, how they compare is, you know, there's a tax benefit to both, but obviously with 401k, they'll tax you when the money comes out, you know, after you turn 65. With the HSA, you don't have to pay those taxes on the way in or on the way out. But of course, your limitation there is going to be that you're restricted to certain eligible expenses, which we've talked about today. And you also have lower contribution maximums. So I think HSAs should serve as kind of a complement to and not a replacement for other retirement planning investing like a 401k.
So how might HSA users invest more wisely? Well, because of HSA's unique tax advantages, it may make sense, if at all possible, to make the maximum yearly contribution. It may also be a viable strategy if one is in the right financial position to minimize any spending of HSA dollars and to use the account as purely as possible for retirement savings. Many of us are not in a financial position to not touch our HSAs for spending, of course. But another strategy might be to accrue enough cash just to cover any high deductible health plans deductible and then invest any remainder. In fact, if you look at it, usually a high deductible health plan's premium is less than the standard PPO or whatever plan you're doing. So maybe just as a start to get their feet wet, people can just use the difference between the premiums to put in their HSA account. And many HSA providers offer only rudimentary, limited investment programs. But when considering an HSA partner to recommend to your clients, make sure that they offer more sophisticated features. They are out there, such as choice of investment models to suit different types of investors, as well as the ability to engage in fractional trading and participate in exchange traded funds. Make sure they have a platform that looks like apps that make trading intuitive and easy. Eddie, talk a little bit about these features because these are my favorites.
Yeah, these are interesting. Working with and selling HSAs for 11 or 12 years now, and it's amazing to see the progress and the improvements and enhancements that have been made to the investing capabilities. And not every organization offers these, so it is something that I think brokers and employers would be wise to ask about when they're evaluating HSA partners. But a lot of these are really modern investing platforms, similar to the concepts of Robinhood and others, where you can do fractional trading. You only have $200 to invest, but you want to own a piece of Berkshire Hathaway. You can just buy a piece of it, a fraction of a trade. And that gets people engaged in their investing at a much earlier stage. And then on another side, not all investors are the same. You have some really experienced investors who might work in the financial or trading industry. And then you have other folks who just don't have that depth of knowledge when it comes to investing. Those two sides of the spectrum probably don't need the same investment management model. So I think having different investment models out there can kind of cater to every type of investor and make sure it's a solution that works for everyone.
So why aren't employees with HSAs using them to the fullest, particularly when it comes to saving for healthcare costs and retirement? Well, for some, it's because they don't currently have the financial resources available to set aside funds for future healthcare. For instance, 56% of Americans can't currently cover a $1,000 emergency expense with savings. Now, that being said, many people simply are not fully aware of the unique built-in tax advantages HSAs offer for investing for future healthcare needs. 35% of employees admit that they don't fully understand their benefits. Eddie, what can we do about either of these?
Yeah, I think the opportunity here for everyone on this call is really on the right side of the screen. I mean, like we talked about earlier, we know people have financial constraints. They have bills to pay, mortgage, rent, a million other things. They don't always have the ability to set aside money in an account like an HSA. There's only so much we can do about that from our position. But where we really can help is with that lack of understanding and providing the education and the resources so that the employees who can afford to make contributions to this account do so and take the most advantage of it, whether they feel more comfortable doing the high yield savings option versus doing some investing. There's a lot to HSAs and there's a lot to benefits, and HSAs are just one small component of benefits. But I think, at only 35% here with that statistic, there's tons of opportunity for all of us to help our clients and our partners and their employees when it comes to education.
So that's the basic picture of how people are using their HSAs to spend, save, and invest, and how they might use them more efficiently in years ahead. But before we conclude, let's quickly review why people getting the most out of their HSAs matters to employees, employers, and brokers. But first, another poll question.
All right, just one or two final poll questions and we'll wrap up here. This question is, in your experience, what is most attractive about HSAs? You can answer this as A, tax advantages, B, ease of use, meaning contributions, debit card, mobile app, C, investment management options, or D, and that's the account portability, the ability to keep this account with you, whether you change jobs, plans, retire, etc. So we'll give everyone just a couple of seconds. Looks like a lot of the responses have already come in. So we'll just wait until we get over that 50% response mark, and then we'll go ahead and talk about some of these results. All right, we're at about 2/3 of the responses are already in. So no surprise here, and we've been harping on it this whole presentation, the triple tax advantage of an HSA. Nearly 3/4 of you responded there. And investment management options are on the low end. Again, that's where I think there's definitely some opportunity. But thank you again for your participation in these poll questions. We only have one left in a couple of slides.
And as we've stressed, HSAs offer tax advantages that no other type of account offers. Users don't pay taxes on what they put in, what the accounts earn, or what they take out. As such, they effectively give users a 30% or more discount on qualified current healthcare expenses and a great opportunity to save for their healthcare in the future. Plus, high deductible health plans and HSAs encourage people to be more active in managing their healthcare, hopefully leading to better health and well-being. As we've suggested earlier, quality benefits like HSAs help employees attract talent and decrease turnover, as well as encourage employee well-being, productivity, and satisfaction. Additionally, contributions to HSAs are exempt from FICA taxes, and as HSAs work in conjunction with high deductible health plans, employers realize the savings on premiums and other healthcare costs these plans deliver. So this is a win-win-win. The employer wins, the employee wins, the benefits provider wins. It's just a great opportunity. And as brokers are well aware, high deductible health plans are solutions more and more employers are implementing. When you help an employer find the best high deductible health plan solution, having a good HSA partner in place can be crucial to employees' overall satisfaction with the plan. And employee satisfaction, like we were talking about, in addition to cost savings, can be a vital factor in selecting and renewing the high deductible health plan that you recommended. And one last poll question, Eddie.
All right, last poll question, and then I'll turn it back to you, Becky, to wrap us up here. So last question, what is the biggest challenge or concern that your clients have with offering HSAs? You can answer this as A, lack of employee education / understanding of the benefit. B, financial exposure of being enrolled in a high deductible health plan. C, service experience from your HSA administrator. And D, low participation / contributions from the employees. So we will give everyone a second here to answer this last poll question. We'll check out the results, and then we can we'll wrap this up right before 1 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great questions in the Q&A that we're going to try to get to. We'll get to as many as we can. If we can't get to them all, we will send out responses to everybody just to make sure that you have answers. There's so much more about HSAs that we could talk about, and we appreciate you being here with us this whole time. But let's check out these results.
All right. And over 50% of these responses came in at lack of employee education and understanding of the benefit, followed by the financial exposure of being enrolled in a high deductible health plan. So totally agree with these responses. And, a high deductible health plan is not for everyone. If you're a heavy utilizer, you or your family, it's probably not the plan for you. But it is good to see that we know there's opportunity here to provide more education and understanding of the benefit, because it can be a terrific program for a lot of folks who are low to middle utilizers when it comes to their health insurance.
So it's clear much work needs to be done to increase the awareness of how HSAs may be best used. For instance, fewer than 30% of employers position HSAs as a retirement saving vehicle. Brokers clearly have a key role in helping raise awareness. We really all do, as do the HSA partners that they recommend. Look for one who offers tools and resources such as customizable collateral, presentations, emails, even webinars that educate employers and their employees about the many advantages of HSAs. Eddie, talk a little bit about 401k educators and how we can help.
Yeah, I think that's a good example, Becky, in that when we do our benefits meetings, we always have one meeting dedicated to health insurance and dental, vision, other ancillary benefits. And then a lot of time there will be additional 401k type support or retirement planning, financial consulting resources that are available. And certainly this varies from company to company. But I think there's opportunity for, again, HSA education to fit in, kind of touches both sides like we talked about in the very beginning of today's presentation, the financial well-being, but also the employee benefits and health insurance side of it. So definitely opportunity. And I say rely on your HSA partners to assist with that type of education.
Thanks, Eddie. So while Eddie's reading some of these Q&As, just to pull out a few that he can answer quickly, I just want to put everyone at ease. If you answered most of the questions, we do recognize that, and if you answered it in the Q&A, we can look at that too. But don't just relax. If you weren't able to get all 6 of them, you should still be okay. We're just gonna we'll let you know exactly where we are in a couple of days. Eddie?
Yep, absolutely. So just looking over a couple of these questions. Let's see. When using GoodRx instead of health plan coverage, please remember that expenses will not accumulate to a plan's out of pocket. That is absolutely true. Something to factor in as far as the employee and where they are in their deductible and their out of pocket and the cost savings on a particular prescription. In Maryland, a lot of the high deductible health plans are more expensive than the same level of traditional plans in the small business space. Definitely an interesting point. I think we're seeing that in certain parts of the country where high deductible health plans were such a big wave of popularity, and combining them with HSAs and HRAs that the underwriters kind of caught up a little bit, and those premiums have come back into the, to be a little bit higher than they were maybe 5 or 10 years ago. But I think that can vary based on group size, of course, and based on your market. And then there's different types of high deductible health plans. Some have smaller deductibles of just, $2,000, $3,000 for a single. Others have deductibles of $5,000 and $6,000. So, the premiums will fluctuate along with that accordingly, but as obviously, so does the employee's out of pocket as well. Many high deductible health plan designs, which ones do you see as actually working best for companies and staff? I like the concept of a higher deductible with a lower premium and coupling it with the HRA to cover the back portion of the HRA, because that keeps the HRA, it goes back to the stacking we talked about earlier, keeps the HRA utilization really low when it's on the back end. Only a few employees might touch that, but gives everyone the peace of mind that should they have those big expenses or an unhealthy year, they have some protection. So with that being said, it's 1 o'clock. I don't want to keep anyone from going over here, but anyone whose questions we did not get to, we will have your local sales rep at Clarity reach out and address that question for you. And if you think of any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Yes, thank you all so much for being here. Your credits are on the way, and we appreciate you being here. We'll hopefully see you later in the summer for our HRA presentation. So everybody be well. Thank you.
Thank you.